Ms. Ryding, thank you for being here with us. My first question, since Eurodat's also concerned with the issue of developing countries, would you judge there's enough progress in the framework of the BEPS initiative, in the framework of the OECD? Would you see other multilateral fora suitable to tackle the issue of tax evasion, tax avoidance also in developing countries, since we know that a lot of dodgy people whitewash their money in places like Luxembourg and deprive their own people in developing countries from tax income? Secondly, what is your perspective on the recent Commission package, so with automatic exchange of information and so on? Thirdly, as we were in Luxembourg and we talked to the Minister of Finance of Luxembourg, he told us, you know, our tax authorities alerted sometimes Germany, even France, about abnormally high profits claimed in Luxembourg, and they didn't react. So apparently some ministers of finance had a nice sleep during that time, or tax authorities, whoever. So against this background, would you see it necessary that exchange of information has public access, maybe with non-disclosure of very sensitive business information, which has nothing to do with taxation? As Mr. Moscovici also indicated, he's in favor. And what would be the value of exchange of information without such public access? Secondly, the same on country-by-country reporting, where the Dutch Parliament took a resolution in favor of public access. Would you also see the necessity there to have public access in order to wake up ministers of finance across Europe? Thank you.
The transparency package from the European Commission, there was one first transparency package sent out this spring. We're waiting now for another package. I don't think the spring package was helpful to anyone, because the Commission went out and said, we are responding with a transparency package. The obvious question was, transparency, what's the new information that the public will be allowed to see? And the answer was, there's nothing more the public is allowed to see, because we're apparently redefining transparency now. Transparency doesn't mean things that people can see. It means that things that some tax administrations, not all tax administrations, but some tax administrations will be allowed to see. This game is unhelpful. It increases the lack of trust. So I think it's very important that the communication around these packages be exact. To exchange the rulings between tax administrations, I think, is a very, very minimum step, and it does in no way solve the problem that we're facing. Also on the OECD, well, the OECD also sent out a press release last year saying a major step forward for transparency. It was shocking to read, because what they were saying was that all country-by-country reporting should be confidential. Now, one of the very big and important step forwards we've had is thanks to the European Parliament. We have the Capital Requirements Directive, which means we have public country-by-country reporting for banks. We will get the information for banks, and it's being implemented now. I think it's rude for the member states to go to the OECD and adopt a recommendation saying that this information should now be made confidential again. It's even more rude to send out a press release saying that that would be a step forward for transparency. So I think we should start being honest and not use transparency for things that are actually meant to be confidential. On the issue of the developing countries, of course, yes, we've been trying to estimate the losses. And there are a number of different numbers out there. One thing that challenges the situation a lot is the complete lack of data. And that brings me to what is country-by-country reporting. Sometimes people think that this is an extremely sensitive thing. We're asking very basic questions. How much does Coca-Cola pay in tax in Denmark? That's one question. How many employees do they have? What is their turnover? What we want to see is we want to see what's their economic activity, and we want to compare that to their tax payments. And then we want to look at the tax haven countries and see what is Coca-Cola or McDonald's, what are they doing in the tax havens? How many employees do they have there? And how much taxes do they pay? This is not confidential information. In fact, for all national companies, this is public, because they cannot hide behind transboundary arrangements to hide these numbers. These numbers are available. I do agree that not all tax information should be public. For individuals, we're not talking about putting information out in the public, not at all. But when it comes to basic numbers about what multinationals are actually doing, I have not heard one single rational argument for why this should be secret. But that brings me to the exercise of estimating how much is lost in developing countries. We actually have very little idea about what the multinationals are doing in developing countries, what kind of money they're making, and that goes for this whole exercise, is we cannot estimate what's going on. What you're seeing is our very best efforts, and we keep arriving at numbers that are at a minimum as high as the development aid they receive, but it is true, as Mrs. Joly also pointed out, that some of the numbers are substantially higher. Can we solve this issue in the United Nations or at the global level if we can't even solve it in the European Union? Well, maybe it would be a gift to this debate if we weren't locked in the European Union, because we cannot blacklist Luxembourg. We cannot blacklist Netherlands, because those are member states. So the exercise in the European Union blacklisting processes has often been that some smaller developing countries have ended up on random blacklists, while the very obvious problems we have in the European Union have gone unnoticed.